Yo, Antona, go na le ntao e nngwe ne ke plomme ko yone. Kopanelane mane mfeto ka reka 6 ka reka le botlolo ntshola. Re plomme e le vibe mnate mone ke dikhawash ke ditshisa nyama mone. Kasi is not a play o ka nyatsang ntja ka go chaela. Di a boa ka slum.
Question is, what made you become a planner?
Oh, what made me become a planner?
Yes.
I think it just had to do with the history of the country and seeing how, as an African or a black person, seeing how we were excluded spatially. So I was passionate about, excited about the idea of being part of the team that will change the spatial distribution in terms of which was obviously pre-94. It was in line with the race, you know. It was along racial line. So we were marginalized as black people. So one really just thought planning gives you that space where you can actually change the status quo. As a black person.
As a black person. So would you say that you are some sort of activist when it comes to planning? Do you think that you're an activist or reformist in some way?
I am. I think I'm more of an activist. I'm more of an activist. I don't politic, even though the issue that we're talking about is not about politics. But it's not necessarily about politics, but it's just about the realities that we live with. You know? So I would say I'm more of an activist, and I am more towards. I usually stand with the marginalized. In this case, in terms of planning, I think the black people of black areas were the ones that were actually at the bottom.
Okay. What is an overarching memory that plays in your head when you think of a township?
Say again?
What is a memory that plays in your head when you think of a township?
What comes to mind when I think of a township?
Yes.
A township in what sense? The township in terms of the planning definition, or the township in terms of kasi, basically?
Both. Both in terms of planning and in terms of kasi.
So both?
Yes.
In terms of planning and the other side? Okay.
Yeah.
Look, township obviously is just an urban footprint, you know, or urban development where agricultural land was actually converted into urban land. Like I said, where you have urban, or in some cases it's agricultural holdings. So for me, that's what is the township from a planning perspective. And then in terms of the South African language, Kasi vibes, to say township, you're talking about this area which was previously reserved for black people. And these areas that are usually far from areas that have the economic opportunities, and they are also not properly serving from where they are. So that's what comes to mind. But at the same time, it's also this, what do you say, it's a classic vibe. I think of an area where this, people show each other love, you know?
Yeah.
The neighbors, they are neighboring to each other. People are friendly, you know, towards each other. So that's what I think about when it comes to Kasi.
You think about the community.
So then?
And I'm saying that you think about the community as well. Okay. Do you think that with Kasi, is it about the people or is it about the place itself?
It's about the place. Firstly, the way they are designed. Like I said, they are high density areas. So obviously it means that you've got a whole lot of people that are squashed there, and the living spaces that you have as a household, it's not a place where you would want to spend a whole day in. So you usually find yourself on the street, and on the street you're gonna meet your fellow community members. And then the friendship, I think, is also just about the space, how it designed itself. And then also that it's far from areas of economic activities, like I indicated. And also you find that there's limited recreational facilities. So you tend to find yourself on the street, and that's where you actually make friends. But generally also I just feel like African, being Nepal is an African thing, so there is the element about that talks about the people as well. But mainly I would say it's just about how those spaces are actually designed.
I think that the practices existing in Kasi are rooted in the community.
Yeah, definitely. They are.
And do you think that it's... Oh, sorry?
Yeah, no, you can proceed.
Oh, and do you think that it's like it is location or context specific?
It's more location for me, like I said. I think it's more about just the location. See, you find yourself in that space, so you need to survive, within the space where you are placed. So you are bound to come up with different practices or traditions just because of how you are positioned in space. Yeah.
What challenges have come up in townships so far in your professional career?
Or in the townships, in my profession, for me?
Yes, for you.
In the township, it will be what now? I think townships are quite synonymous with just illegal. There's just a whole lot of sporadic illegal land uses as a town plan, obviously, because we need to we are watchdogs for those things, or we regulate land uses. So in Kasi, that's where you usually find a whole lot of illegal land uses. And for me specifically, it's issues of like your taverns. The taverns, they're the ones that usually just pops up everywhere. Lately, you've got your tuck shops as well that just pop up everywhere. And they are dominant in Kasi, those things. So I think those are mainly the challenges that we have. And also maybe the other challenge, which is the third part now. I spoke about the areas being high density areas. What it then means is that even if people have standalone houses or dwelling units, what happens is that you find that they're in a very small stand. Usually it's 250 to 350 square meters in size or in extent. So at the end of the day, it means that even no matter how well you do in life and you want to extend, then there's limitations. Because the development parameters, and it's sad to find that somebody now, they are well off, they really want to remain in Kasi and they want to extend their house, but they are limited by your town planning building parameters, like your building lines, talk about height restrictions and so forth. So those are some of the challenges that I've encountered so far, those specific to Kasi.
Do you personally think that the government is doing enough to combat those challenges?
No. They're not doing enough. Yes, there's been an attempt. Pluma, I think, is the first thing that I would say. It was an attempt. There was DFA, Development Facilitation Act, which was introduced, but it didn't do much, and it was not really talking to addressing the issue that I spoke about, which speaks about the positioning of Africans in space, or having areas that are just reserved for black people. The DFA never really attempted to address that. So then there's Pluma, which says, look, planning needs to go across the board everywhere. Each space needs to form part of the spatial planning and land use management system. But still, I feel it's not enough. The government is not doing enough. Because with Pluma, we won't be able to break the spatial division that we have in the country, which is along racial lines. What you need an act that will talk about now the availability of land, how we get land, because you find that most of the land that we have, where we can actually utilize to break the spatial division, they're in private hands, and you need to negotiate to buy. You need to then, which can take years, and so we need a law that would actually bridge that gap to say if we need to be very much intent in terms of addressing the spatial division, and the main issue that needs to be addressed is the issue of the availability of land. I can tell you with my own experience, you have a settlement where you want to bring people closer to areas of high economic opportunities or socio-economic opportunities, but you can't because the land is privately owned. You go to that person, the person says, I'm not willing to buy. Then you go to say you want to expropriate. The expropriation process is quite long. And at the same time, people are still suffering in those areas that are actually secluded. So I don't think the government is doing enough. It's been 30 years into 29 years now. So I think they would have done better. There's been an attempt, but it's not enough.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with that. Do you think that there is such a thing as Kasi culture? And that
There is, yeah.
most people in Kasi would identify with this?
Yes, definitely. There is Kasi culture. There is Kasi culture, definitely. Look, Kasi culture is finding people on the streets, Ibrahim Outwana, doing all sorts of things. There's even the kind of music that displays there. And also the culture is just about, say, it's an area where we sing when we are sad and we sing when we are celebrating. So there's definitely a Kasi culture.
Do you think that Kasi culture is something that we must consider when we think of developing townships or when we bring in the idea of township revitalization?
Definitely. I can tell you there's people that are like black people that came from Kasi. Post 94, they moved to what would usually be referred to as suburbs. But they always go back to Kasi every now and then, say over the weekend, just to experience the Kasi vibe. So it then means that even when we plan our spaces, we need to listen or have an understanding of the culture of the people that we're planning for. And whatever that we do, we need to try by all means to incorporate those within our planning system. I was saying the other day, just this week, I was talking to my colleagues when we were talking about issues of car wash. When I was talking about the headache with cars, I forgot the car washes that just pops up everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was saying we cannot keep on saying people are illegal. They are operating illegal car washes and so forth and so forth. What it says to us is that people want car washes. So there's this principle that is called form versus function. I don't know if you know about it. To say if people are acting in a certain way, there must be a reason behind it. So you need to then study that and say, how do we then regulate this properly or make room for this in our planning system? Because if you plan in Kasi and you don't plan spaces where people can operate their car washes, it means that you are actually planning to fail. People are going to still operate car washes because it's in them to say we're going to have car wash by the pavement.
Yeah.
It's in them to say there must be a tuck shop in each street. So if you don't plan for a tuck shop, it's going to happen even if it's not there in your planning or your designs. So I feel we need to take into consideration that people need to feel at home wherever they are. And feeling at home is a place where it would accommodate my culture and my way of life as much as possible. Yes.
Yes, and I think that as planners, most of the time we have the misconception that the activities and practices happening in townships isn't what we're supposed to be planning for. We have a more, I want to say, a suburban lens on things, so that when we plan in a way of, oh, it's informal, oh, it's illegal, so we should eradicate it. We shouldn't plan for it, or we shouldn't plan to accommodate it.
Yeah, no, it's true. And by doing that, we are planning to fail. We're actually creating a headache for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because it means that all these things that we don't want, they will keep on popping up because you didn't make room for them when you were planning.
Yes.
So I really feel we need to do a lot of homework and plan for the people. You don't plan for yourself. You don't plan for yourself, you plan for the people that you are planning for. So people need to take ownership of whatever product that they are going to produce, and they need to feel at home as much as possible. You may not be able to cater for everything, but there's things that we can still incorporate and make sure that people are comfortable. Yes.
Do you think a township can be separated from spaza shops, car washes, chisanyama, and taverns? Or is it all part of the experience? I'm saying that, do you think a township can be separated from spaza shops, car washes?
No, you can't. You can't. If you do it, if you're planning your township or you're establishing a township and you don't incorporate those, and you're planning to fail, like I said. So you can't separate those things. Ichisanyama must be there. Like I said, you've got people that will live there in terms of the suburbs, if you like, going to Kasi because they want the Chisanya. So we need to look into those, just understanding the people that we are planning for, what they want, and we incorporate those in our planning system or in our design. So we can't really separate those things.
do you think that it's important to sustain a sense of place?
It is very important to do that. Sense of place in a way that, look, I think it's the same that I was saying, to say a place that I would call home, it is my place, right? So I need to feel at home in every space that I am, and wherever I call home, I need to feel at home and comfortable as much as possible. So it is important.
What are ways that you think that we can sustain a sense of place during township development?
Like I said, you need to, I think it's a matter of understanding the people that you are doing. When you are doing, say it's an informal settlement upgrading, for instance, you go on a drive and conduct a study that is called social enumeration. So social enumeration, you develop a questionnaire, and you go to each and every household that is within that community and understand their needs and understand their background and understand, so that when you do planning, you maintain the feeling that they had when they were in informal settlements. You maintain it, or you try and incorporate it into the urban development now. So it is very important, and the tools that you use there, just do social enumeration, go and interview those people, understand each and every household, their needs and their wants, and then try and incorporate those, so that at least, even if you are to change the status quo from informal to formal, but the feeling must still be more or less the same, or the weight of life must still be more or less the same. You can give them services now, but these things that you would want to improve, but the way that they interact with each other, it needs to be maintained. There must still be that social cohesion and all the other things. So that is very important.
What changes do you think are crucial to implement in townships?
The changes.
Yes, changes or interventions.
Firstly, I think we need to, from a planning perspective, right? From a planning perspective, I think there need to be a drive, because townships are usually the areas that gives us a headache as planners. Because that's where, like I indicated, that's where you find that a whole lot of illegal land uses, they pop up. And some of them is things that are easy to deal with, like maybe the written consent application that needs to be done, and you just need to pay, say, 2,000, 1,000, but people are not willing to do it. So what needs to happen is that we need to go on a drive as planners, just sell our profession to people in Castle. They need to understand why planning exists and how it actually benefits them, because I just feel like sometimes our priorities in terms of in the townships, they are not really right. We prioritize things that are not so important. You can prioritize paying a DSTV rather than submitting a building plan, for instance, or a consent user application. Not to say you can't afford it. You can afford it. That's why you're able to pay a DSTV or buy whatever, but you cannot pay 5,000 so that you can change your zoning or whatever that you need to, for building plan, because they don't understand the importance of those things. So we need to go on a drive as planners, sell our profession in people that are in Kasi, so that they can see the importance of this profession of ours. So I think that is one thing that needs to really change, that we need to do better of. Let's sell our profession to people in Kasi so that they buy into the benefits of this profession and so forth.
And the final question that I have is, what do you think is the future of townships?
The future of townships. What will be the future, really? I'm not sure if I understand the question. But I think I would say, unfortunately, most of them, they seem to be going towards, because of what I was saying earlier, to say you've got a whole lot of illegal land uses that are popping up. So most of them, they seem like they are going towards this issue where they will turn into slums. A slum like Alexandra, right? Alexandra, because you had people coming to Joburg, they just go there, all black people, they went there. It's a formal township, but it turned into a slum because now it's overpopulated. Everyone is just putting up structures everywhere. So it seems like that is probably maybe what we're going to witness in most townships. because of the same thing that I was saying, because government is not releasing land as quicker. So you would find that if then I'm born in this house in Township, it's 300 square, I'm looking for land and there's nowhere to stay. You invade the neighboring land, maybe it's privately owned, they evict you, so you don't have anywhere to stay. So the chances I'm just going to build a back room, behind my parents' house, and then my brother might do the same, and then eventually you find yourself living in a slum. Mm-hmm. So I think that is my fear, to say if we don't release land quick enough in areas that are actually more habitable or better positioned, then we are bound to have a lot of slums, especially in these high density, urban areas like Gauteng and other secondary cities and primary cities. So I think that is probably maybe what will be happening if we don't deal with the issue of the land, to say we need to be proactive in terms of releasing land for human settlement development.
Okay, and as a follow-up to that, what do you personally wish for the future of townships?
I wish, like I said, I wish to see us improving in terms of how we incorporate the township culture in our planning, and also teaching or empowering the people in Kasi so that they understand the benefits of planning. So if they do, it then means that what I was saying, to say these areas are going to turn into slums because of illegal land uses and so forth. If we teach them and they get to understand the benefits of planning, I do feel like it would actually mitigate in terms of the chances of these areas turning into slums, because people would actually watch against illegal land uses, and they can actually be your watchdogs as the municipality, to say when they see an illegal land use, because they know the dangers that brings, they can easily report it to the municipality and so forth and so forth. So my wish is that we need to empower the people that are in Kasi. Secondly, we need to be releasing land for human settlement purpose at a faster rate as compared to what we are doing now.
We cannot ignore the legacy of the past in townships. What occurred pre-1994 catalyzed the shortfalls and challenges we see today. Townships are poverty-stricken, underdeveloped, and deprived. As planners, we cannot ignore the injustice caused by apartheid, spatially, socially, and economically. People in townships were intentionally placed at quite a distance from economic activities so that they may not have the opportunity to thrive. In today's age, little to nothing has been accomplished to rectify that legacy. In episode 1, I declare that this podcast is determined to reveal the sense of place in townships and why it is important to explore this aspect. In episode 2, I engaged in conversation with Kasi locals who express what Kasi is to them, what they love and hate about their home, what they wish for the better, what the culture is, and why it is context specific. They express that in Kasi, we are who we are because of the situation we were born in. Yes, they love their home. Yes, there's no place like it. Yes, they feel like they can unapologetically be themselves without their community judging them, as their community knows what they've been through. However, the mindset of muddling through and adapting to the challenges they have to deal with remains intact, whether it be drugs, unemployment, poverty, lack of access to electricity, and sanitation. The interviewees believe Taki Alteid Makaplan, which translates to a black person will always make a plan. I explored the influence they still want music and telling the story of townships. They want music videos and lyrics provide a look into the reality. As much as the music may glorify the culture, it still throws hints at the struggles of living in Kasi. South African hip-hop and Amapiano have aided in this exemplification. Amapiano has transformed entertainment spaces around Kasi. Dedicated spaces have risen to give voice to Kruger's culture, and this has become heavily associated with the sense of place of townships amongst the youth. In episode 4, I enlist the stance of Thanyani Mushadu, where he voices the need for planners to be passionate about their work and the need for black planners to place emphasis on addressing past injustices of apartheid and injustices caused or disregarded by the post-apartheid government. Townships cannot be separated from their practices, norms, values, behaviors, and culture spaces. A township is not a township without a car wash, chisanyama, street vendors, and spaza shops. Black people will always go back to Kasi, as it is a place where they can just be themselves, where they can get easy access to traditional food, where they can spend time with people who they share a genuine friendship with, and culture, and they would not have to act otherwise. Township feels like home to so many black people, whether you're an insider, an outsider, or somewhere in between. Townships have an established sense of place and culture that is crucial to understand and consider when in the light of developing townships.